Nintendo's Amiibo figures look great as they are, but customizing is a way of making them even more special. I'm TJ, and it's my mission to make the map that removes the mystery from Amiibo to help you chart the course to conquer your favorite custom challenges and achieve the unique and personalized Amiibo you always wanted. Let me make the mistakes so you don't have to.
Adventure time! I'm bored already.
That's me, TJ, and Dark TJ. They'll be popping up from time to time to offer some tips, tricks, and helpful hints.
Don't listen to anything this guy has to say. He has no idea what he's doing.
Or not so helpful. It's dangerous to go alone, so come with us and we'll conquer this custom together. Welcome to Custom Conquest. Hey everybody, we're back, and I hope you're ready for a little bit more Koopaling action, because we are, and that's what we have for you, is more Koopaling action. Today we're going to feature the 5th Koopa in the series, Roy Koopa.
Roy's our boy! Roy's our boy! He is not, dipstick. That line obviously refers to the Japanese teen heartthrob Roy.
It's debatable. It's a matter of debate. Roy's our boy. Who's our boy? Is it Koopaling Roy? Fire Emblem Roy? You know what? Why don't you guys tell us who is the boy? Who's our boy?
It's way too early in the episode for you to already be this annoying.
Yeah, you're right. All right, sorry about that. So Roy has a lot of things in common with his big boy brother buddy Morton in that they both borrow from Bowser. So you're going to see some of that, but not a whole lot of Bowser Jr. components are going to be compatible with this guy. So let's see how we put it together, and hopefully it'll provide some tips to inspire you to be able to make your very own Roy Koopa. Not Fire Emblem Roy. Let's get started.
When I consider the amount of time, energy, and patience that goes into making any of the Koopalings, as far as my difficulty scale is concerned, certainly earns them a 9. But whereas I think I mentioned Larry Koopa was the most difficult, while none of them were easy, if I had to pick which one was the least difficult, I'd probably go with Roy. Mostly because there's the least that needs to be done with him, but make no mistake, he still presented his own unique brand of challenges. Now, how's about we figure out what we need to put this thing together? That includes the figures, pieces, and parts. As with all the Koopalings, we are going to start with that Bowser Jr. Amiibo, although we are going to use very little of it. The key components here are the clown car and that NFC chip. Don't forget the shell! Some of the key components for Roy, just like Morton, are going to come from Bowser. As mentioned in Morton's episode, I do recommend using the Smash series Bowser because the shape of the muzzle area is a much better match. And just like with all the others, we're going to use some thumbtacks and paper clips, not just as tools, but also as the skeleton of our final figure. And would you believe it, the plastic spork is back. By this point, you're probably familiar with its application as teeth and tummies, but we've got another silly use for it here with Roy. Now for the tools and supplies.
What? No custom vinyl stickers?
Since Roy wears glasses, we can't actually see his eyes, so no need for the stickers on this one. We will, however, be needing that round-nosed pliers, or maybe a few. Since we are changing the pose, sculpting putty is a must. On Roy, I used the 2-part epoxy Milliput. Make sure you have some super glue on hand to bind this big boy together. Paint and brushes are a must because every part of this guy is getting repainted. And finally, we need a cutter and some sandpaper. For Roy, I used a ninja katana.
You did not!
No, I didn't. I used an X-acto Knife, and to keep things super smooth, I used a medium-grade sandpaper and some disposable nail files. Let's try to lay out a clear approach. Starting with the head, even though there are some similarities between Bowser Jr. and Roy, Bowser Jr. can be made bald pretty easily if you remove his ponytail and shave down his horns, and his mouth is closed like Roy. But Roy has a cleft upper lip, his nose is a little bit more snubbed than Bowser Jr.'s, and his head is just generally bigger. So here's where our Bowser comes in. I'm gonna use Bowser's head. I'm gonna remove Bowser's mane and eyebrows, and fill in any holes with putty. Even though Bowser's mouth is open and he's bearing teeth, the lower part of his jaw is a separate piece, so I think we could probably just remove it and seal it shut. Roy's the only one of the Koopalings whose eyes we can't see because they're hidden behind those oh so cool shades. I can't say I recall seeing a pair of sunglasses that small anywhere, so we're probably gonna have to make those out of something. And Roy has a couple prominent teeth we're gonna have to add on there. The shape, size, and position of Roy's hands are remarkably similar to Morton's. If you recall back to that episode, I attempted to use Bowser's hands as they were, but they proved to be too big, and the fingers had too many knuckle joints to resemble Morton's chubby little mitts. So I'm thinking for the right and left hand, we'll just go with the Morton method. For Roy's spiked bracers, we'll just borrow Bowser's. And I think we can use the middle section of Bowser's arms as well. We'll just articulate them into the shape we want with our paper clips and putty. There aren't too many similarities between Bowser Jr.'s body and Roy's, so I think we could probably use Bowser Jr.'s base to build on. We'll stick the shell on there and fabricate an abdominal column. And we're gonna wanna make him as big as we can and still fit him into the clown car. Speaking of the clown car, same recipe as before. We're gonna replace the eyes with a custom sculpt, fill in the hole where Bowser Jr. is connected to the stand, do a complete repaint, adjust it to the angle of Roy's Smash Brothers pose, and mount it back to the stand. So what do you say, should we get to it? Roy's our boy! Roy's our boy!
Miitomo must be rotting your brain. Only one Roy's our boy, and it most certainly is not the Koopa Kid.
First stage of this journey is to break down our Bowser Jr. and our Bowser figure so we can pilfer what parts we need to put Roy together. I'm gonna drop them both in some boiling water. A minute to a minute and a half will usually do it, but if they start to firm up before you can pull them apart, don't sweat it. Just throw them back in and repeat the process as necessary until you get them disassembled. On the Bowser Jr. front, the only thing we need is the shell and the clown car. But I'm also gonna keep the base of the body so that I have something to build onto. For the Bowser amiibo, I'm gonna use the head, the hands with his spiked wrist cuffs, and I'm gonna try to use the center portion of his arms. Smash Bros. Bowser's head really works great because once you pop off the horns and the hair, he already starts to look like just a pair of shades away from being Roy. But I think we could do a little bit better. I originally thought I was going to trim off his teeth and then just close his mouth, but after closely inspecting the way that Roy's lower jaw connects to his upper lip, I think it'll be a lot easier just to sculpt it. Let's start by cleaning up the top of Bowser's head with some putty. Roy's head doesn't stand too tall, so you're basically just trying to smooth it out. Use water, your fingers, and a toothpick. I'd recommend trimming off the teeth on Bowser's upper lip. Then you can pretty much just repeat the putty process used on the top of his head for his lower jaw. Smooth it out and you're good to go. Since Roy doesn't have any hair, it's simple as that. One detail I did want to add though was his brow creases. They're not very prominent, and you can certainly sand away at it later, but it's less work to do here at the sculpting stage. For this, I just lightly pressed the side of the toothpick into Roy's head until I had the desired depression. Now for the shades. Okay, this was the biggest pain for me. I was being extremely obsessive about it. I really wanted it to be symmetrical, and I wanted it to be really smooth. So my first thought was to try to steal them from one of my daughter's Barbie dolls. And while I did find some that had a pretty good shape match, the scale was a little bit too big. Once I reconciled myself to the idea that I had to create them, I wasn't exactly sure what material would get me closest to how I wanted it to look.
So we wound up making them like 5 times.
The first material I attempted to use was Bowser Jr.'s bib. I drew it out with a marker and carefully cut out the shape with my X-acto knife. While they didn't look horrible, they were way too thick, and it would take way too much work to finesse that to the point of acceptability. I tried sculpting them a few times out of both Sculpey and Milliput, and while the shape is pretty easy, I just couldn't get them perfectly smooth or perfectly uniform, even after sanding. Finally, I used the same material I used any other time I was at a loss in this Koopaling project. The plastic spork! The spork was great because it was already slightly curved, it was really easy to cut, it's pretty flexible, it holds up to sanding, and it's pretty durable. So I roughed out the shape of the glasses on a spoon with a Sharpie. Then I cut them out with a pair of scissors. It was important to me that the lenses were a separate layer, so to create the hole in the glasses, I used a leather punch, and I just kind of worked it around until I had the size of the hole that I needed. Then I cut out some oval lenses and glued them to the back. Roy's glasses were definitely the part of the process that took me the longest, but I'm pleased to say I'm super happy with how they turned out.
Oh yeah, made in the shade.
As expected, I could borrow very little of Bowser Jr.'s body to build Roy, but I could use his base as a starting point. I've mentioned it before and I'm gonna mention it again. My crazy commitment to using as much plastic as possible caused quite a bit of unnecessary work, mostly in the sanding department. Roy's arms are pretty much just thick logs. It's a super easy shape to sculpt, but for some reason, I really wanted to use Bowser's arm. Proportionally speaking, Bowser's arms are a little bit too thick, and they're textured, so to take the texture away, I shaved him down a little bit with my X-acto knife, and then sanded him smooth. Using my thumbtack, I poked some holes in Bowser Jr.'s body, and fed my paper clips in there to create some skeletal structure. I also poked some holes in Bowser's arm, and attached it to the other end of the paper clip. This left me with some pretty obvious gaps, but they're super easy to fill in with putty. For Roy's hands, I started with Bowser, whose hands are pretty much in the same position, only his digits are a lot longer. So I cut off the ends of all of his fingers, and then trimmed his hand into somewhat of a rectangle shape. I glued the shortened finger stubs back on, and sanded it until I got it as smooth as I could. After that, I added some Milliput to round out any rough edges, and once that was set, I hit it with sandpaper again.
So you're saying I'm gonna need some sandpaper.
We can keep Bowser's spiked bracers completely intact, we'll reattach them to Bowser's hand, and then we'll connect the hands to the body of our figure. Feel free to finesse the angle of the arms until you adjust them into your preferred position, and then we're just gonna fill in all those gaps with putty. Keep the water close and smooth it out as much as you can. Because Roy's a big boy and we want him to fill that clown car, now's the time to fit that shell in. For the reverse of the shell, as you may have seen in episodes past, I cut an oval out of the center of a plastic spork, scored and folded it to create the segmentation, and then accentuated it by taking little notches out of the end of each side. You can cut off any excess shell until it fits into shape, and then lock it on with some super glue. It's prime time! I first primed him with a gray, and then after many yellow paint fails, it finally dawned on me to prime him yellow, since such a large majority of the figure is yellow. A word of advice before we move on to the rest of the painting:
Thin your paints!
Keeping your paints thin will not only help to prevent visible brush strokes, but it will also help to preserve some of the finer details of your figure. For Roy's muzzle area and his abdominal column, I used a wheat color, or wheat if you like pronouncing silent H's. For Roy's spikes, I painted them a flesh tone color. I traced the ring of Roy's shell with white. Roy's head is unique in a couple respects, but most notably in that it's pink for some reason. So I used some white and a tiny dab of red to mix the shade of pink I wanted to paint the top of Roy's head. And while I was at it, I figured I'd just add a little bit more red to get the hot pink tone for his shades. I also wanted to use that same pink for the rings on the back of Roy's shell. For the base of Roy's shell, I used purple. Roy's got two prominent fangs hanging over that lower lip, so I just clipped off the pointy ends of the spork and glued them into place. Even though Bowser's spiked bracers were the exact right color, it was easier not to mask them out, so I wound up repainting them black and dabbing all the spikes with some silver. We'll reattach Roy's head and the figure part is good to go. I promise I won't make you suffer through another clown car construction. So here's a quick montage of putting Roy's together. If you want a more detailed description of the process, I encourage you to check back to the first episode of the Koopaling mini-series, where we explain this process at length. The rim and propeller of Roy's clown car is red, so we slapped that shade on there. Hey, that's my favorite color! Since I wanted Roy to be as big as possible and still be centered up in the clown car, I did have to remove the support of Bowser Jr.'s base and fill in the clown car with some putty. To make sure Roy fit in there nice and secure, I pinned him in with a paper clip and sealed the deal with some super glue. Now we can add to our Koopaling clan our boy Roy.
Roy's our boy! Roy's our boy! For the last time, Koopaling Kid Roy is not our boy!
We've got our Roy figure, and that means it's time to put him in the box. Another box bites the dust. If you want to use this box, feel free. We're going to make it available as a download in the description. Keep those awesome custom pictures coming. And let's take a look at the pictures that came in for this episode. If you want your custom Amiibo featured here on Custom Conquest, you know what? I would love to feature them. All you gotta do is post to Twitter at Custom Conquest using the hashtag MyCCAmiibo, or you can send it by email to customconquest@gmail.com. And another big thanks to you, all of our player pals at home, for checking out the show and following along. It really makes it a lot more fun to me knowing that it's inspiring you. So, thanks. With Roy out of the way, that means there's only 2 more Koopalings to go. So we'll pick it up again next time. We'll see you then.
Thanks for playing. Dark side out. So you guys getting sick of all these custom Koopalings yet? Well, too bad. We got 2 more to go.